Hello, everybody.
This is Dawn. She's also known as the living example of truth, in case you want an alternative name for her.
Thank you.
And she's going to tell you a story. And this is for those of you who still insist that this work doesn't work for you.
Thank you. First of all, I should say you might as well throw me over the falls because this is making me nervous.
Apply the formula.
Oh, right. Okay, right. Sorry. Okay. So I'm a healthy person. I've been a healthy person for 20 years. I eat whole food, plant-based, grass-fed, bought from the farm, don't buy from the grocery store. I own a business in Canada that I distribute whole food, plant-based, organic, raw to every health food store in Canada. I have every sauna, juicing, wheatgrass sprouts. There's nothing that you can say that I don't have. So May 9th, 2017, I really had no symptoms. I really didn't have any symptoms. I had a few cramps. I was going through menopause. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's just menopause, whatever. I went for an ultrasound. Nothing really showed up. So May 9th, 2017, I was at my doctor's. She sent me to the hospital. I had a blockage. I hadn't pooped for a few days. She sent me home for the weekend, and I came back. And she said, you have a twisted bowel, so go to emergency, which I did. In emergency, they said I had a blockage in my bowel, and they noticed something on my liver, so it was probably cancer. And the reason I couldn't eliminate was because there was a tumor in there. And I was pretty sure it was chia seeds and hemp seeds. That's just stuck. There's just no way. There's just no way I have cancer because I do everything correctly.
Do you say that the tumor is on your liver or on your colon?
Well, it started on my colon, metastasized to my liver.
Okay,
and to
well,
my
you said
abdominal.
liver, but you meant colon.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
So I had to have surgery that night or the next day. So the next day they removed 6 inches of my bowel, and they gave me an ostomy. Another new experience for me. So I had an ostomy for a year.
Tell them what that is.
So an ostomy is where they actually pull your large intestine out of your gut, and you have a poop bag. So actually on our 30th anniversary in the hospital, my husband got to hold my poop bag, which is not great.
True love.
You better believe it. So that was a lot to deal with. But again, I found it interesting because everything I eat, I could see how it affected my colon. It was like, wow, look at that. Dairy,
An inquisitive
gluten,
mind.
I could see it. I could see it all. So after that, I had to do 6 rounds of chemo. I actually had to have a liver resection, which was it's a big cut. They take your liver out, flip it around, took half of it off because the other tumor was on the caudate lobe, and it was edge to edge. So they didn't know if it had actually gotten into the artery at that point. So of course,
wait a second. I think some people here are confused. She started off with a diagnosis of colon cancer. The tumor is in the colon. How many people understand? And that was the reason for the blockage. So they resectioned, they took out a portion of the colon and they resectioned it. But many times colon cancer spreads or metastasizes to the liver.
So after the liver resection, I had to do 6 more rounds of chemo, which I made it through 4 because they were quite brutal on me. And again, my husband would say, nobody knew I had cancer. I was healthy. I know I'm healthy, and I know I'm bigger than chemo, but I needed the chemo so I could take the time to figure out how I was going to fix this without the chemo, because I know we're powerful. I knew it. I've been reading Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart for 20 years. I believe in all of this stuff, and I have for a very long time. It wasn't until Dr. Joe came along, though, that...
Wait. I'm going to stop you right here. I have a few questions for you. So you have this organic food, pure food business.
Yeah.
And you decided to have the chemo because that wasn't working.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so their lifestyle had nothing to do with the fact that
No,
you had...
and my husband and I mean, I was lost. It was like my religion just forsaken me.
This is an important moment.
I was, the river, I have been in and out of that river so many damn times.
All right, stay with me here. Stay with me. So then you had the conscious belief that healing by epigenetics and all the neuroplasticity and all the science and information that you've been reading for 20 years, you had the conscious belief that
Yes.
it worked. Now, belief is like pregnancy. Either you are or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you had the belief that you could heal in that way, then really having the chemo then...
Oh, it was tough for me.
Right, but it was also you also had the belief that the chemo would work too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so now continue on, because I want to know if the chemo worked.
The chemo did work at that point. The following year, it was one whole year later, I went to get my ostomy reversed. Very grateful for that. However, that day or the day before, my CEA, which is a tumor marker for colon cancer, had started to go up. So it should be under 4 for a normal person. Mine was up to 14. So it wasn't high. I mean, it can go up into the thousands, but it just showed there was some activity. So we reversed the ostomy, and I thought, I'm just going to kill this thing myself. So I did, I mean, again, I have access to everything. Juicer, wheatgrass, sprouts, keto diet. No, I never ate sugar anyways. No sugar. Just, I'm going to kill it with all that stuff. And my numbers kept going up. So in January of 2018, I had an MRI, and I had 8 lesions on my liver, and it had metastasized to the abdominal peritoneum. So it was pretty grim, and it's like, oh, man. And they wanted me to do chemo again. And I said, no, I'm going to Dr. Joe's event in February in Vancouver, and then I'm going to Hawaii, and then I'm coming back for a trade show, and then I'll come back. And I'll maybe do this in March.
Now listen, I want you to understand that this is a practical approach to me as someone who's been a healthcare provider. In other words, what she's saying is, well, I did the chemo. I went through, chemo for colon cancer is brutal, if it's the ones that I think they administered. So the chemo is very difficult on the patient. And it's not a guarantee. In fact, it's about a 50-50 with those particular types of chemos. So she had the chemo and had the resection, and so after the chemo, after a bit of time, here comes the disease back again in the same places, and the carcinoembryonic antigen, CEA levels that are correlated with colon cancer or colon cancer activity in the colon starts to go up and progressively is going up. And now the tumors, there was one tumor on the liver, now she has 8 lesions there, and now it's spreading to her abdominal area. Things are looking like the cause of the problem hasn't been addressed. Would you agree? So it's a very practical approach, and I support this. If a person says, okay, I've done those things, it hasn't worked, I'm going to try something else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for a period of time. And after a period of time, if I change my lifestyle, if I change certain things, if I give myself 3 months or whatever it is, we'll measure everything in 3 months. And in 3 months or 4 months, if they're starting to improve or staying the same, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to add a few more things that I think may help. If it doesn't change in a certain amount of time, I'm going to do something else. Now, that's a practical approach. Would you agree? And that's how we want you to address your health condition. I'm going to keep doing these certain things. I feel comfortable with that. I'm going to do the meditations or whatever. And let's do this for a period of time, and let's see if something changes after a period of time. And if it does, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'll know that it's working. How many people understand? Please continue.
Thank you. So when I got back from Hawaii and the event, and I was a Healy, at that event. I was grateful for that. I got back and my number was 477. So it's like, still didn't get it. So, but what I was discovering is that everything I had obviously done up to that point was matter to matter. I knew to my soul that my body could heal itself. I knew it. But it was I kept saying, I know my body can heal itself. I have no doubt. But I forgot about my mind part. So it was my mind that I had to switch, not my body, because I knew I'm more powerful than chemo. I'm more powerful than whatever drug or supplement I need to take. So I had 2 rounds of chemo, and my number went from 477 to 23. And I said to both oncologists, I said, is this normal? And they just said, this is working really well for you. They didn't say it's normal. They didn't say yes or no. So I took a month off because, that chemo was really hard on me. So I went back to the oncologist. My numbers were still up. I said, okay, I'll do chemo, but I'm going to do half of the panitumumab. I'm going to throw away the other one. I'm going to do half of the other drug. And I'll just take a minimum dose just to get me through because I know I can figure this out. So he said the protocol probably won't work. And I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot anyway. So I'm going to do chemo along with meditations every day, studying this stuff every day.
Whoa. Whoa. You were meditating every day?
Every day.
You were studying this work so you could assign meaning to what you're doing? You figure out how to do it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, when your back's against the wall...
The tiger comes out.
It does. So I reduced the chemo, continually going back for a CEA number. I finished the 4 rounds, and I had to go for a CT scan. So while I was doing all my meditations and all my work with Dr. Joe, I came to a couple conclusions. One is that if we're this, and if I'm an individualized piece of that, that's perfect. That means I'm perfect. So what I had to do was discover the lie that I was telling myself my whole entire life, which I didn't even know I was telling myself one. So that, to me, is a spontaneous healing. It just took a long time. So I understood, I changed my personality, but I didn't know what I was changing it from. Like, I had a good life before. The thing I had to change it from was, again, as a child, you get all these different influences. I felt very small. I accommodated everybody. I suppressed myself to gain acceptance with other people. So that was the lie I had to figure out that was keeping me sick. And once that was figured out, I had a CT scan 2 weeks ago, and I'm normal.
Now, here's my question. Would you encourage her to continue to look for any other unconscious programs that exist in there? Because every one that she brings to the surface and changes stops her from going back to her past self. And when we return back to our past selves, it makes sense then, if you're thinking and feeling in the same ways again, you're back to the old state of being, that on some level, if you're feeling the same feelings that are thinking the same thoughts, and those same thoughts are producing the same feelings, your body as the unconscious mind is believing it's in the same past experience, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And that chemical continuity that's equivalent to a person's emotional state, it's a blend of different emotions. So as we begin to remove those emotions, we're changing the chemical blend, and you're no longer activating the same gene expression. That's why, Jesus, well, here we go. Jesus goes to the well, heals the blind guy. He says, what does he say after he heals him? Sin no more. Sin, to miss the mark, to miss the bullseye, to be off. Change your attitude. Change your attitude. Change the way you think and feel. If you don't, the disease is going to come back because you're going to return back to the old self. And I'm too busy. I got a crucifixion coming up in a few months. I got 12 guys that are fishermen. I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. My mother's driving me crazy. My cousin just lost his head. I don't know. I got things to do. I can't make it back. So you understand then that it's imperative. She's crossed the river. And how can a cell, an individual cell, begin to change and regulate different nutrients, eliminate different wastes, absorb and metabolize different things if it's getting the same signal every single day from the same chemical blend? So as we start to make those changes, right down on the cells receptors are opening up for different gene expression, and there's antennas that are on the receptors that are actually picking up the signal before the chemical arrives. And the protein changes, the receptor changes to receive the new chemical. That's how fast it could happen when a person changes. So then it could happen over time. You understand? All the wheatgrass didn't do it because there was some emotion that was keeping the cell in the same genetic expression or the same receptor site expression, the same metabolism, the same assimilation, the same absorption, the same elimination. And if there's emotions of survival are involved, then the cell shuts down. Receptors shut down even more because it can't take anything from the environment anymore. It's an emergency. It's got to close down. So then as people begin to make those changes, then it happens instantaneously. So then people who have trauma and betrayal in their life, they have shock in their life or whatever it is that brands them emotionally. And every time they feel of anything in their environment, when they span the environment, people sweep the environment with their eyes and they're looking for anything that's relatively the same as the past because they want to look to make sure it doesn't happen again. Are you with me still? So that when they suspect something that's even close to it, it automatically signals the emotion. And the body returns back to that past state. And that's what's keeping the gene programmed in the same way. Are you with me still? So then if the person is fully engaged in creating the feeling or the energy of what it would feel like if they were healed, they work themselves up into that state. And they did it with an intensity, a level of energy that was greater than the betrayal from the past, then you could see then that there would be an instantaneous change in gene expression in that moment. Yes or no? Because the stronger the emotion the person feels that's greater than the emotion of betrayal, the more the body now is believing it's in a new environmental condition. And now you're literally changing the brain and body from the past to the future present. And it happens in the present moment. But by the same means, people in this work that are crossing that river, they're doing everything to create balance, everything chemically to create balance. But the issue isn't the chemistry, it's the emotion that's keeping the body status quo. So they begin to take different blends of those chemical emotions and they begin to tease them out. And over time, they begin to change their chemistry. And that's why sometimes they have to go through the realization and the understanding of what it is. And you can say you have the belief that you believe in all this stuff, but now she believes in it. To me, now she believes in it because she's experienced it. Yes or no? She had the conscious belief philosophically. But until you actually do the work, now you're saying, I believe in it. That means then, if you don't do the work every day, many of you don't believe in your future, and you don't believe it's possible. That's why you don't do it. Yes or no? Yes. You just believe in your past. But if you truly believed in your future, you would want to do it every day to keep reminding yourself of who you are in that future. Yes or no? Yes. And if you keep that attitude going over time and keep doing it over time, in time, you'll begin to downregulate certain genes and upregulate new genes. And cancer genes will suppress quicker in a new chemical state because the body begins to change. And it wasn't, she's not an unhappy person. She's not in lack. I mean, she's successful. She's conscious. She treats her body really well, takes all the right foods, eats all the right things. But my point is that doing all of that never prevented the disease in the first place. Are you with me still? That's why I tease you all the time, because I've seen this too many times. So when the person then begins to look at themselves, whatever the unconscious belief was, doesn't matter. It's just that it's there. So then when they start retiring those beliefs, they're changing their state of being. They're removing from that subconscious program, the implicit system. They're changing their autonomic expression if they're doing the meditation and getting beyond their analytical mind. And over time then, not a long time, but over time, she's been at it now. She's been at it. She's been doing the work. She's doing her meditations to really see what it is that's standing in the way between her and getting healthy. What is that? And if you're interested in looking, you got to light a match in a dark place. And you got to really look, and you got to see, oh my God, I got to get conscious of that. That's the moment of reckoning. That's when the body starts to become free, and it can literally heal because it has the energy to heal.
So I just wanted to tell you guys two things. One, of course, I've been reading about quantum physics, metaphysics, all this stuff. I believe in it for 20 years. But it wasn't until I actually went...
I want you to reframe that. You read all that stuff and you had the intellectual belief that it was possible.
I did.
It was possible.
It was absolutely possible.
Okay.
I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So when I was introduced by my naturopathic doctor to Dr. Joe's work, I just started reading. I read Becoming Supernatural, and I just couldn't wait to get to the chapter about collapsing time. I'm like, I've been reading about this for so many years. I didn't know how to do it. So, thank you. Thank you. I feel like I should buy you a car or something. I don't know.
Listen, I'll tell you something. This is worth more than any car in the world for me.
Thank you. So I just wanted to tell you the weird part about this whole thing. So, because there's got to be a weird part. So my husband and I got our test. So my doctor's appointment was at 1:40 in the afternoon. We got in a little bit earlier. The doctor's shuffling around the papers and stuff, and I could see the paper here, and it kind of said normal. So exactly at 1:40, I'm reading the paper, the CT scan results, like liver normal, pancreas normal, like normal. So like I'm just in shock because that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting that. Sorry. I was expecting it to be normal, but still, I've never been to a doctor's appointment that I didn't get bad news.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. So that was exactly 1:40. So my husband and I went out. Of course, we had wine. I called a few friends. My parents came. We had some more wine. We celebrated. We went home. We were sitting on the couch that night. And my husband looks at the clock on the mantle. It had stopped at 1:40. And it's still there.
Now, should she ever change that clock? Why? It's a reminder from the universe that she healed herself and to not go back to the old self. From that day forward, she's got to stay her new self. Yes or no? How many people have heard the words unconscious bias? Have you heard that? Unconscious bias is a great study. They're using it in business a lot now. And as an example of an unconscious bias is you can give women and men a mathematics test. And if the woman checks she reads the instructions and checks the box off that she read them, if it says on the test that men are better than math than women, it will prime a subconscious belief, even though the woman consciously says that's not true. Are you with me still? That's subconscious. So you could have the conscious belief that all this stuff works. You could walk around telling people, hey, you know what? You need to signal some genes over there. You know, you need to stop being such a victim. Oh, yeah, you know what you need to do is forgive your mother. You're just busting all these moves. You got it all going on up here. But you're not doing the work. Or you're not in the river. Are you with me still? So as soon as you decide, this is my point, as soon as you decide to do the work, as soon as you decide to say I can be healthy, As soon as you say, I could be wealthy, I could have a new job, a new career, to work anywhere in the world with whoever I want, for wherever I want, whatever it is you want, right? You can have all these kinds of dreams. If you're in the known, all those beliefs are working for you. Are you listening? Because they're equal to your feelings and thoughts. The moment you say, I want to create something new, you are going to come up against those unconscious biases, those unconscious beliefs, because then you're all of a sudden going to say, well, Dawn, really what she was saying was feeling small is feeling unworthy. How could you believe you could heal if you're feeling unworthy? Until you overcome your unworthiness, now you'll begin to heal. It's not a conscious process. That's an unconscious bias. It's an unconscious belief. And I'm sure she could tell me all the nutritional facts about all kinds of things, right? And yeah, you know, whether she believes certain things or not, there comes a point now when she finally makes up her mind to prove to herself that the belief is true. The only way you know if the belief is true is through experience. And now, you have to remove anything that stands in the way between you and that belief. Yes or no? And this process is lighting the match in a dark place. And the realization of self, the realization to know thyself, and keep asking the questions, what is it? What is it that's standing in the way between me and my vision? What unconscious thought? What unconscious belief? What persistent belief that's there that I didn't even know that I had? Because that's the one. And the only way you know is to work on creating something new. And as you're creating something new, the belief is talking you out of it. That's the one. That's the one. Why do you think I'm inspiring you to sit there? Don't you know I want you to come up against that belief that you're no good or nobody cares or you're too much like a parent or you had a past experience that you just can't stop telling the story about until you sit with yourself long enough. People say to me, well, what's the emotion and the attitude creating the disease? Sit with yourself for a day. You'll find out, because it's whatever that is. And you got to become so conscious of those unconscious thoughts. I want you to be so aware of that thought that I want you to sense it before it's coming, because you're that conscious. And the research says you can. That you would never go unconscious and forget and believe that thought again. That would never slip by your awareness unnoticed. That's what it takes. And I wanted you to come up against whatever that was for you, because that's one thing that's standing in the way between you and that future you're about to create. But if you don't be on that thought when you're creating that future, you're not going to believe in that future. And the only way you're going to believe in yourself is to sit long enough with yourself to realize what you want to take to your future and what you want to leave behind. You sit there and you notice that you're complaining in your own brain to yourself. You're suffering with yourself. That should tell you volumes about you. You don't need any psychotherapist for that. And you become aware that you are tormenting your body every single day with those emotions. And you realize at some point, it's got to stop. And I want you to get so uncomfortable with that program. And if it has to beat you up in 20 ways, I've had it happen. To the point where you just make up your mind, we're going to finish this. At what point do you bring on that tenacity? Because that's what it takes. That's energy. And if you're studying any great charismatic leader or ascended master or whatever, they sat with themselves under that tree or in the desert or whatever, and they faced it all. They weren't going to come back the same person. They had a belief in something else. That instinct that I talked about the first day, that instinct that never goes away, that there's something more to this reality. That feeling that you may not be able to describe or explain in words, but you felt it, and you felt it your entire life, and you're different, and that's what brought you to this work. And I can show you the door, but you're going to have to walk through it.